Hey, everybody, there is some big news coming out of the real estate industry. The National Association of Realtors recently settled a lawsuit, and there are some big implications when it comes to home selling prices and commissions in particular. We'll get into all that in just a second. People have been asking what I think about how it's going to affect some of my favorite real estate companies. So before we get into it, please take a minute and check out the link you see on your screen, fool.com/Frankel. It's a message from our sponsor, The Motley Fool. You can get the top 10 stocks to buy right now, and it's the best way to support this work I'm doing on YouTube. Again, that link is fool.com/Frankel. So let's get into it. So first, the headline. The National Association of Realtors, they've been sued by a few different groups, and there was recently a judgment awarded or assessed against them for $1.8 billion. Now, that was in appeals. Basically, the allegation is that they were fixing commissions, keeping them artificially high by requiring sellers to pay the buyer's agent commission in real estate transactions, which has been going on for decades. So now the news came out that the National Association of Realtors is settling for a lower amount. Not a big surprise, $418 million, about a quarter of what the original assessment was. That's not the big news, though. The big news here are two big changes it's going to make to the way that homes are listed and sold. So number one, the buyer's agent commission is no longer a part of MLS listings. So in order to list on the multiple listing service, or MLS, which is it's pretty essential for realtors, you had to disclose what commission you were going to pay to the buyer's agent. And usually that was 3%. The 6% real estate commission has been very standard for a while. There's a little bit of wiggle room, but generally it's close to that. Half of it goes to the seller's agent and half of it goes to the buyer's agent. The seller pays both agents. That's no longer necessarily going to be the case. That is not part of the listing anymore. So the other big change is now there is a written agreement required between the seller between a buyer and their agent to let them know exactly what the fee is going to be. So buyers have to pay their own realtors out of their own pockets, and this could create a lot of competition. So how is this going to affect things? So one, it could give sellers and buyers, but mostly buyers, more room to negotiate their commissions that they pay. If you had to actually pay 3% out of pocket, let's say on a $500,000 home sale, that means you would have to write your realtor a check for $15,000 for their services. Now that consumers are going to be more aware of what they're paying their buyer's agents without, just making the sellers blindly pay for it, there's going to be a lot more room to negotiate. Recent analysis by TD Cowen said that commissions are expected to fall by 25 to 50% because of this. That could save the average home seller in the United States about $9,000 in commissions just from this little change. That's a pretty significant amount and could result in more money in sellers' pockets. It could result in lower home prices, a lot of different implications. For buyer's agents, there are big implications about, is it going to be worth it to be a buyer's agent anymore? So if you're shopping for a house, you're going to have to pay your agent's commission. To be clear, you're still allowed to ask the seller to cover your agent's commission, but now it's going to be a bigger and more visible part of the transaction, and sellers can say no. You can ask them to cover a 3% realtor commission. You might not get a yes for that. So many home buyers and agents are going to have to, have a little wiggle room when it comes to commissions. And in a lot of cases, buyers might stop using agents altogether. If they are pretty tech savvy and really know what they want and things like that, there are platforms that could help facilitate the process without actually having to use a buyer's agent. So let me get into how it could affect three of my favorite real estate companies, Zillow, Redfin, and Opendoor. So Zillow, and this shouldn't come as a surprise, I think will be the most affected of the three. These changes go into effect in July, by the way. So they're not in place yet. You still have a few months of the kind of traditional MLS system. But Zillow could be the most affected of the three. They rely on their premier agent business for a lot of their revenue, meaning that agents pay them to be a Zillow premier agent, to connect them with buyers, to connect them with sellers, things like that. And if they're not making the 3% buyer's commission anymore, they'll have less money to spend on marketing and subscriptions like Zillow. So Zillow itself warned investors in a recent filing that, quote, if agent commissions are meaningfully impacted, it could reduce the marketing budgets of real estate partners or reduce the number of real estate partners participating in the industry, which could adversely affect our financial condition and results of operations. Now, to be clear, Zillow's business isn't going anywhere. The sellers' commissions are still alive and well. You're going to have a lot. I mean, listing on Zillow is still going to be a pretty essential function of selling agents. Buyers are still going to be using listing agents for the property. But on the buyer's agent side of things, it could put pressure on Zillow's business. So Redfin, out of the three, I think is the only one that it could really be a net positive for. So that same TD Cowen analyst note said, quote, this will open up opportunities for alternative models of selling real estate that already exist but don't have much market share, including flat fee and discount brokerages, which describes Redfin perfectly. Now, Redfin is well under 1% of the U.S. existing home sales market right now. That can change if in a more fee-aware consumer environment for real estate. Glenn Kelman, the Redfin CEO, was on CNBC shortly after the decision was announced for the National Association of Realtors settlement. And he pointed out that Redfin's been advocating for lower real estate commissions for 18 years. I mean, I've been saying that the 6% real estate commission model is very antiquated, and Redfin has agreed with that for a long time. This could make a big difference, but quote from Kelman is, "This is the battleground we want to fight on." And where I interpret that is that a very tech-heavy platform like Redfin's that's been focused on enabling agents to sell more homes with the same amount of effort for years and years now, because they can do things more efficiently, that's a natural fit for buyers who want to do the process themselves, buyers agents who can't spend as much time with a client for a 1% commission as they did for a 3% commission. Redfin's platform is a natural fit for things like that. Kelman is pretty adamant that buyers agents are still going to exist, but their compensation structure is going to look a whole lot different than it used to. So out of the three, I think Redfin could be a net beneficiary over the long run. A lot of near-term uncertainty for sure, which we're seeing priced into the stock, but I'm not too worried about Redfin's business from a long-term perspective because of this. Redfin's business is more dependent on things like lower interest rates and just general economic benefits than anything else. So that's what I think about Redfin. Last but not least, Opendoor. It's a little tougher to tell Opendoor's impact than any of the other three or any of the other two. So Opendoor's platform, they allow homes to be bought and sold directly without agents at all. But I think it's going to have kind of a mixed impact. So on the positive side, Opendoor pays buyers agents commissions when they list and sell homes on the open market right now. And these changes could affect that in a positive way, save them money when they're selling. On the other hand, Opendoor itself charges a pretty hefty fee when a homeowner sells their house to Opendoor. A lot of people don't realize this with the iBuyers. If Opendoor, say, offers you $400,000 for your house, that's before the fee they take, which is in the 5 to 7% range, very close to the standard real estate commission. So that fee part of the business could come under pressure if we see real pressure on buyer and seller's agent commissions. Opendoor might be forced to kind of lower its fee to stay competitive. So pretty mixed impact there. It's really tough to say what's going to happen for Opendoor. I would say, if anything, it's a pretty neutral impact to the business. So just to kind of quickly recap, Zillow most affected. It's one that I'm kind of worried about how this is going to impact Zillow's premier agent business. Redfin, I think, is in a good position to have this be a long-term net benefit to the business. But short-term, there's a lot of uncertainty. And Opendoor, I think, would be the most neutral out of the three when it comes to how this National Association of Realtors settlement will affect it. So I'd love to hear what you think. Please leave me your comments and your thoughts. I will do my best to address every single one of them individually. And I can't wait to hear what you think. Once again, thank you so much for joining me. Be sure to click subscribe if you don't subscribe to my channel already. And as always, this video is sponsored by The Motley Fool. Be sure to visit www.fool.com/Frankel to receive the top 10 best stocks to buy now.